Well, for this business spotlight interview, we're joined by Adam Taylor. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning. You all right?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Good
Should
to
tell
see you
everybody.
again.
We should tell everybody that we know one another from. We've got a certain bond, haven't we? We took part in Strictly Learn to Dance to raise funds for Bolton Hospice last year and raised thousands of pounds between us, and it was a great experience, wasn't it?
It was amazing. Yeah, one of the something I never thought I'd do, and something I will never ever regret now that I've done it. It was one of the best nights of my life. I'll be honest.
Brilliant. Yeah, I echo that completely. And I'm looking forward to seeing it again this year, but from the sidelines this time. Slightly
Yeah,
less
yeah.
stressful.
The beer in your hand.
Absolutely. So this interview is designed for two reasons. One, to tell everybody about you and what your company does, but secondly, to educate our listeners around some of the positives and some of the challenges of being a business owner and being in business and growing a successful business as you have, Adam. So I thought we'd get started with a simple question, which is, what is it that you do? What is your business? And tell us a little bit about the journey from how you got started to where you are now.
We've now got four businesses, which sounds a lot more grandiose than it is. They're all very intertwined. So when people say like you've got four businesses, how do you manage? We don't. We run one business, but there's four branches to it, if you will. I started on the journey as a ductwork fitter. I was on site. My dad was involved in the ventilation business. He knew somebody, and I got involved and ended up as a ductwork fitter. From there, I ended up in the office, and it grew from there. We ended up working. My dad had his own business, which unfortunately I was supposed to go travelling. He needed a triple heart bypass, and I ended up running the business. Unfortunately, we got slapped for a lot of money, so that business went bump. We got taken for 250,000 quid, and we're only turning £1 million over. So that business went bump. I went looking for somebody else. A PLC bought them and decided they didn't like the business. It wasn't they couldn't guarantee the margin. They wanted to sell boxes and know exactly what every box we're going to make. That is the game that we're in. So we're a ventilation manufacturer, a sheet metal ductwork. We have one business called Pure Fabs, which has about £1 million a year over and manufactures galvanized ductwork and associated products. We have the Pure Vent business, which is a commercial ductwork installer. We work in anything from schools. We're just doing Patterson outside of Christie Hospital, which is £1 million project. And we do a lot of work for a company called Bruntwood in Manchester, which owns about £1.5 billion worth of property now, and we're the primary supplier of ductwork to all of them. And we also have a business that's relatively new, it's 5 years old, which is Pure Labs. We started that business because one of our competitors went into insolvency. We've asked to finish the job, and it's grown from there. We've now purchased another company called Macaire, and we have a range of fume cupboards. So we're focused around the ventilation business within the construction sector. Across the group, we turn between 7 and 10 million quid over. With 38 cards in staff. Today we've got 60 odd lads on site, lads and girls on site. So yeah, that's what we do. We're a ductwork specialist involved in different sectors within that business.
Brilliant. Obviously, you've been around for a little while now, and you've had to work through COVID over the last few years. Were there any changes that you were considering before COVID that COVID made a necessity for you as a business?
It put the brakes on for us, to be honest with you, COVID. It was not a nice time as a business because it wasn't a nice time for anyone. I mean, that's when we met, isn't it? And you know, we were due to dance within a matter of weeks, weren't we?
Yeah.
That got paused, and I distinctly remember actually us being in that room and people saying what they got, and there was vast different opinions on that day. People wanted to do it, not do it. Let's crack on. Let's not. And I think that was reflected through business, through personal life, through the country, to be honest, and probably worldwide. You know, I don't think people still really understand what caused, what damage, etc. it did. But from a business point of view, we had some customers that were like, closing, let's shut down. To the other extreme, Langor Roads, that were telling us if we weren't turning in for work and people weren't on site, we were getting liquidated damages applied, and them liquidated damages were £17,000 a week. And they had lads genuinely scared, not wanting to go to site and we were having to swap lads around again to go to site. And we were in a growth phase then, and it stopped that growth phase, and it's changed and pivoted where we were heading potentially, which I think's been a good thing because it's given us the room to grow the pure labs business, which is the more exciting business at the minute. It's a bit more niche, there's a bit more margin in it, and we get treated a little bit better in that business.
Yeah.
We made some pretty rash decisions when COVID landed, I'll be honest, which I think a lot of people did. Like, we immediately furloughed all our staff, which meant I went from doing a 50, 60-hour week to a 100-hour week most weeks, and my business partner. And we did that for one or two reasons. We did it to protect the staff because we wanted to have a business at the end of it. Nobody knew what was going on. And we just figured, roll our sleeves up, get stuck in, make sure we've got a business that comes out the other end of this, whether it's 6 weeks, 6 years, and keep slogging away. We made some pretty tough decisions in that, like my brother-in-law, we actually made redundant as part of COVID. That was a horrible discussion to have. And within 12 months, we realised it was a massively wrong decision, and he's back in the business now as the director of one of the businesses. So yeah, and the other thing it did, we were working really, really hard, but it brought me and my business partner back to the workplace a little bit. We weren't quite as remote, and we realised that some of the clients that we're working with were no longer profitable. They were no longer people we wanted to work for. Some of the clients that we weren't given as much time were actually better clients with more margin in. So we actually, in that phase, we did what we termed as like a global review of our customers, and we went through all the jobs that we've done with them historically, worked out what margins we'd made, what margins ran away, and we actually cut away. We had 48 clients, 49 clients at that time, and by the end of COVID, we'd cut 20 out of them away because we were doing a lot of work with them, and I'm talking significant numbers across them all. You know, it was in excess of 2 million quid worth of turnover we just turned off, and chose to focus on the clients that we had good relationships with, that weren't as contractually onerous, that I or my business partner knew the owner of, and we could go and sit down and go, "Hiya, Paul, we've got a problem on this job. Let's go for a pint, or let's go for a brew. Let's have a chat," rather than it being litigation, solicitors, and everything else. So we actively moved away from some of what we considered to be big, important customers, like NG Baileys of the world, Lord Stewart's of the world, and actually switched that work off to ourselves. So we went from growing and developing to going, well, you know, we wound it right back, and was more selective.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we encourage our clients to do is to make a big list of the customers and then categorize them as A's, B's, C's, and D's. You know, your A's, your awesome customers who always pay on time, no trouble. You know, they refer you to other people. Your B's are your basic customers. Your C's are your challenging customers. And then your D's are your just don'ts, the ones who you'd rather give to your competitors than work with. But you hang on to them for the sake of revenue. And you can be a busy fool, can't you? You can, you know, there's no point having a £10 million company making no profit when you can have a £2 million company making lots of profit. So it's one of the things, you know, it's interesting to hear you say that, because it's one of the things we encourage our clients to do all the time.
I had a very, very direct conversation with a national director of a big mechanical firm, who I won't name in case this goes out anywhere. I never sees it, but I won't name it. And he said to me, "You can't afford not to work for us as a business." And I went, "Really?" He went, "Yeah, there's no way you're going to turn work down from us." I said, "Well, I'm telling you now, we are no longer working for you. I've instructed everybody that works in our business, if a tender comes in, not to send it." He said, "You can't afford to." I said, "The reality is, it costs me to come to work for you. I looked at all the jobs we've done for you. We've turned over £1 million over with you, and it's cost us £1.2 million to build. I said, if I sign on the dole, they pay me 60 quid a week. Coming to work for you has cost me nearly 200,000 quid. So believe you me, I can afford not to work for you." And if we hadn't gone back to the coalface and sat, I'm not convinced would have seen that as early. So something that did teach me with the COVID was, we've got to be all over the numbers. We've got to look at and analyze it. And even if it means making time early one morning, one weekend, whatever it is, really analyze each client and each job and make sure they're worthwhile dealing with.
Absolutely. It's a big learning for everybody who's listening to this interview. Okay, so that's a little bit about the history of the company. What are your aspirations for the business over the next 5 years then, Adam?
Depends which part of the business you're talking about. So if we talk about there's three different businesses really. So the pure vent business is the one that we're in the growth phase with. We've paused. We want it to stay where it is. It will naturally grow as our clients grow a little bit. And if we get, as you say, an A customer that comes on, we've grown. We're not salesmen at all at our place. We've grown when people have moved and people take us with them. So if somebody moves and goes to a good client and we chose to grow, that business will grow. But at the minute, it's sat at 4 million quid-ish, 4 to 5 million quid turnover, with no intention of it being any bigger. We never, when we set it up, we were only supposed to get to 1 million quid. But it's definitely not going any bigger. So Pure Vent is sat where we want it to be, and it's sticking on nicely. It's got good staff in there. It's got a good team in there, good clients. So we're working away with that. Pure Fabs piggybacks on the back of that, which is the manufacture business that does about 1 million quid a year, and it's on site at Horwich. That will follow that. That's a direct correlation to the vent business because we're 80% of its client. It has 20% of its own clients.
Yeah.
The business that we're actively growing at the minute is the Pure Labs business and the Macca brand. That's gone from doing 1 million quid to probably do 2.5 million this year, and maybe a little bit more. And the intention is that to get that up to around the 4 or 5 million pound mark over the next 4 to 5 years.
Brilliant. Good stuff.
Yes.
There's been a lot of talk about it being a challenging employee or employers market at the moment. What's your thoughts on the current employment situation in the Northwest, in particular, where you're based?
Challenging. Skills within our sector are massively short. We're struggling to get sheet metal workers. If you look at our sheet metal workers, a sheet metal worker's wage is equivalent to picking the shelves at Amazon down on the A6. And we've got young lads and young apprentices. We're running an apprentice scheme. We work with Alliance Learning, and we've been very successful with our apprenticeship scheme. In fact, we got a national award. We got nominated to the national awards last week. We had one of our apprentices went down to the last 19 of 22,000, which, you know, we're up against people like Jaguar Land Rover, JCB, all them sort of people. But we've had to pivot away from trying to get people in that have got the skills because they don't want to come into it to getting involved with apprentices and bringing apprentices through to be in our business. We've got a really big problem on site. There's been some legislative change recently. So there's a certain card you need to work on our site. It's a CSCS card. And in our industry, in the ductwork industry particularly, we feel like we're being picked on a bit, I suppose, is one way of putting it. I'm assuming we're not allowed to swear. So we're being bullied a bit, and they've basically taken away what's called grandfather rights. So I've got, for argument's sake, I've got a guy called Colin that's been a sheet metal worker all his life. He's no qualifications. He's done it from being 18. He's now 55. The government have now told him he needs an MVQ to do his job, or he can't have the card. The MVQ course is anything from 2,800 quid to 3.5 grand, depending on where you get it delivered from. And he's just said, I'll go and pick shelves at Amazon. I'm not paying 3 grand to be told how to do my job. So we've got a massive skill shortage coming up there, and we just can't get people to come into the industry. It's a fight. You know, it's a fight. We're a construction business. We have a workshop. It's not sat on computers in a nice posh office and, you know, your breakfast given to you and all stuff like that. It's manual labour. It's working in, it's working in the cold, working on site. So yeah, we're struggling with it, and we're also struggling on the professional side. We've been advertising for QS. We've been advertising for contract managers. We've had adverts out for nearly 12 months. We did engage with an agency who found us somebody, but what we found with agencies is that they get people in for us, but then they're quite quick to flip them back on because they know they're good people. So once they've earned the fee, 12 months later, you'll find that Paul that got introduced as the next big thing was the next big thing, but they can't earn a fee on him after 18 months, but they can by flipping him onto one of your competitors.
Somebody else, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we found. So we're actively trying to do that. And the wages have shot up. I'm just losing somebody that's on, he's been offered 25 grand a year more to go to a competitor.
Wow.
And it just doesn't stack up on our business plan.
No.
and I'm convinced it doesn't on theirs either. But at
Yeah,
the minute,
so
it's a challenge.
sometimes you've got to let people go because you just can't compete with those kind of things. So it is a challenge at the moment, and what you've just said there, Adam, reflects some of the conversations I've had with other people as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 12, 18 months or so. What would you say is your biggest learning as a business owner since you started in business then?
Not everyone can do it how you want it done or how you do it. You know me, I'm quite outgoing, I think you'd say. Center of the attention, that's kind of me. And my business partner is the yin to my yang. He isn't, I'm not particularly detailed. I'm not particularly structured. My business partner is all of that. You know what I mean? So he is literally the yin to my yang. And equally, the staff that we have, our colleagues that work with us, they can't all do it how I do it. They can't all do it how Steve does it. You have to do it. You have to instill into them what you believe is the way to do it, and let them find their own path. You can't micromanage people because it turns them off in the league. Really... So you've got to empower them to make their own decisions, empower them to live and die by, their decisions, and not crucify them when they make mistakes. Let them make the mistakes. We've had mistakes that cost us tens of thousands of pounds, and I don't think I've ever ended out a true shouting at and bollocking like I would on a football field. And people don't tend to leave us very often because we do empower them, we give them that bit of training, and we've taken people on that have no background in our industry and trained them up. So I think one would be empower your people to do what they do, back them. And I think the second thing would be trust your instincts. Often you get a gut instinct about a client or about a person or about an employee or about subby, and I find that 90% of the time that instinct's been correct.
Yeah.
I happily proved wrong. The apprenticeship scheme, I said let's not do it. I've been completely proved wrong with that, and the business partners voted against me for it, and happy to throw my hand up and say I was wrong, and I was wrong. But 90% of the time I would say go with your instinct, trust your instinct, because you tend to be right. You know your business.
Yeah, really important. I mean, you talk to the business owners that I work with, and one of the biggest things, number one, is letting go of stuff, as they grow the business, because they've got to. And the second thing is, why should I pay somebody else to do it when I can do it myself? It's one of those, in order to grow a business, you've got to grow a great team to run the business for you, haven't you? So that's really interesting. Talking about learnings, obviously, before we came on air, we talked about coaching in your business. And you've been a great proponent of getting those sort of resources in. What has coaching meant to you and to your employees and to your senior team?
It's changed our business. I'll be honest. I was, again, my hand up time. I was like, we don't need this. My business partner was like, we don't need this. And we work with the Business Growth Hub, with Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce, and we get so much, because we're three businesses, we get so many free sessions a year. And 6 years ago, we always gave it to the staff, go on a management course, go on a time management course, go on an Excel course, everywhere. And my brother-in-law, the guy that we laid off and he's back with us, he came in one day and said, listen, we need to do something for you guys. Myself and Stephen, particularly, Stephen's a draft fit, he's a ductwork engineer, I'm a ductwork fitter, and we've ended up running a business. No formal training, no accounts training, no, we're just here. And we've got a business thing called Ruby Star Associates. They came in and worked with us, and it genuinely, within 7 or 8 sessions, changed how we looked at our business. We realised we were underfunding some parts of the business, that we did to take some parts of the business seriously enough. We did a session with Lego. Of all bloody things, we did a session with Lego. You can imagine, you can imagine my face when she walked in with a pot of Lego. I'm thinking, absolutely no time for this, not interested. And that hour genuinely changed how we structured our business.
Brilliant.
It completely changed how we structured our business. And from that, we've got involved with them more and more, so much so we instructed them directly, paid them a few quid last year to do our missions and vision, which again is something I used to see on a wall and think, that's nonsense. Why do people have that? And we got buy-in from all our colleagues, all our staff. We got buy-in from all our suppliers. We got buy-in from all our clients. And we put it together. We had good, bad, and indifferent feedback, all of which was extremely valuable. I personally found the bad feedback good, because it made us, it shone a spotlight on, right, we're not doing that right, guys, let's do it right. And I also think it around the place, it kind of empowered all the staff to feel like they've got a bit of say in what's going on. It helps us to put it together. Yeah. And the other thing with the coaching, it's taken me a little time to get Stephen into buying into having a regular guy to speak to. We speak to a guy called Simon Calderbank regularly, and he's the external influence for me. He makes me and Stephen accountable, because technically not. We're accountable to each other, but there's things that drift in our business because we're accountable to each other, and we'll do it next month. We'll do it next month. Whereas it makes us accountable, and it makes us sit up and look above the parapet, and Luke can start to be accountable for strategy a little bit. Have a look round. Is such and such body happy? Should we strengthen that part of the business? Do we really want to grow Pure Ben, or should we be concentrating on Go Labs? And it's for me, it's the external influence that comes in that takes your mind off the day-to-day, makes you think about what you're doing personally. It does some work with us personally as well as for the business. So, where do I want to be, not just where the business wants to be? Do the two correlate? Do they line up? Do they correlate, or do they not? Yeah. And if you'd have asked me 5 years ago, Paul, I would genuinely have said, we are not interested in coaching. Got no interest at all in it. It won't do anything for our business. And 5 years later, I think it's an essential part of what we do.
Brilliant, brilliant. Talking about sort of personal sort of life, and you mentioned earlier, and I know you're an outgoing kind of guy. How do you balance your personal life with the demands of running what are multiple businesses, I suppose, for you now?
For the first 8 years, I didn't particularly well. I worked really, really hard. But I work hard and I party hard and I play hard. We don't stop as a family. We don't stop as a business. We don't stop. My phone's always on. The best holiday of the year for me is Christmas, because my industry stops. So even on my summer holiday, my phone's on. I'll be checking my emails. I'd like to not think I'm a control freak, but I might be a little bit. But I like to know what's going on. If there's a problem, I want to know. I'd rather not go away for 2 weeks and come back to a whole world of problems. I'd rather just deal with it when I'm there and have half an hour in the morning on my phone, half an hour at the end of the day on my phone, and make sure that when I come back, it's not the end of the world. But I coach 2 kids' football teams. I coach a kids' hockey team. I got involved with Strictly Come Dancing. I try and do something for charity every year. We're just full on all the time, and I think I need to learn to say no.
Talk to your coach about
that. Yeah, talk to my coach about that. Yeah, I am getting better at it, but I have 2 young lads. I have a 14-year-old lad and a 13-year-old lad and a 12-year-old lad that are both really into the sport, really active, and that were me. And I'm just going to encourage that. There's no, if it means I've got to sacrifice going out on a Saturday night because I'm going to be up Sunday, so be it. Get them to where they want to be. I'm only going to have them for another 4 or 5 years. They'll be off to university, and that's the sacrifice I make. We still have a really good social life, mate. You know that. I get out. I've got a massive group of friends. Yeah, we're always going here, there, and everywhere. But if it was a choice between that and work would come first. I'll be honest with you.
Right.
If I have something planned on a Saturday night, something went wrong on a job we're doing on a Saturday night, I would be there. Yeah. I don't know if that's sad or not, but it's the way I am. It's the way I'm wired, and it's how I've got where I've got. So.
Okay. Well, look, Adam, we're just about out of time. Thank you so much for this. Just a couple of very quick fire questions to finish with. Do you have any advice for your 18-year-old self? If you could look back in time and talk to yourself, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
Go traveling. I really regret that I didn't. I had the money saved up. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, Helen, that you've met. Yep. We had the money saved up to go traveling. Then my dad, the selfish guy, needed a triple heart bypass, so I got dragged into the business and ended up running the business. And we never made that step to go traveling. You have a long time working. Absolutely. And I wish I'd gone and done that.
And in terms of learning, any particular books or videos or podcasts that you've read, listened to, watched that come to mind that you'd recommend?
I read loads of stuff. I read lots of fiction, lots of non-fiction. I'll listen to the High Performance podcast. I don't know if you listen to that.
Yeah, Jake.
I have to be in the mood to listen to it. I'll be honest with you. You know, I've got to be switched on and engaged to listen to it. And sometimes I think it's a bit middle management speak. Sometimes it's not. But I get a lot of good stuff out of that. Believe it or not, I listen to Desert Island Discs a lot. And I get properly inspired by some of the stories. And it doesn't tend to be the ones that are the sports stars that people have heard of. It can be a scientist that's done something, or find a lot of that quite inspirational. And you're a coach, I don't want to say it, but I get quite a lot of inspiration from our coach and from the stuff that we've done with that. Yeah. You know, it makes us sit up and realize what we can and can't do.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, that's just about it, Adam. How do people get in touch with you or have a look at the company? You've got a website, LinkedIn profile, things like that?
Yeah, my LinkedIn profile is myself, is Adam Taylor. There's with the Pure Companies is kind of our overall. We're not a group officially, but Pure Companies is the overarching brand. Within that is the Pure Vent, Pure Fabs, Pure Labs, and the Fume Co business is a company called Mac. There's websites featuring all of them, and you know, if anybody does want to get in touch with me, get in touch with yourself. You've got my contact details.
That's brilliant.
I'm more than happy to.
Well, we'll put all those on the show notes, Adam. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's been a real inspiration.
Cheers, Bob.